Where's Dr. Mingo? I don't know. We're gonna have to start without her, I guess. Cause I do things on WPT, not CPT. How y'all doing this evening? Where? Oh, she really for real not here. Okay. We can just get it started and she can join in later. That's how men, we can do things. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. It's February 14th, 2022. Is LA still on fire? Anybody know? Anybody know if LA is still on fire? I don't know. Y'all don't want to say. Anyway, let me lower the volume on this music. The computer's a little slow. What else is new? All right, I'm here. Y'all there. Good evening, everyone. This is our Valentine's Day show. I don't know if you've been following the BroDiallo radio broadcast pre-pandemic. Whenever our pre or post Valentine's Day show, I would make y'all a promise to fix everyone's love life, and I would open up the phones at the studio to anyone that had any questions about love, intimacy, relationship, sex, whether it's dealings with issues of how to know when you find the right one, or erectile issues, which I don't know nothing about, but I can try to help y'all if I can. Anything related to love, intimacy, relationships, and so on and so forth. And Dr. Mingo usually joins us on the love show, the yearly love show, where we can sometimes try to escape politics and oppression and genocide. But here she is. Let me bring her on. So anyway, so we're going to discuss issues. If y'all don't have any questions, if you want to continue to live a life of chaos and continue to struggle in your life, then don't come on and inquire. If you want BroDiallo fix my life, Dr. Mingo fix my life, then feel free to holla. Anyway, good evening.
Good evening. What, your camera is so much better than mine.
Yeah, I got a HD camera. Well, actually, I got it from you. This is the one I stole from you when you left it downstairs on the dining room table. All them, remember?
I do remember. I feel some kind of way.
Yeah. You want to trade? I can go up there. You can come back here. But then you got to run the boards and everything too.
I can't do all that.
And did you get your tea?
I did. I'm using that cup too.
Why? I don't want nobody touching my stuff. I don't want nobody bothering nothing that's mine.
This is the cup that you've abandoned.
Wait, hold it up. Hold it up. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But anything that's mine, don't mess with, because it's mine. I don't play that. I was raised in the house with people who struggle with addiction, so I'm very particular about people touching my stuff. Anyway, since we're talking about how I came up in the mean streets of Missouri, Biden and the have you gotten your crack pipes from Biden yet?
No, not yet. And I don't know where to get them.
Oh, are you looking for crack pipes from Biden?
Well, I just don't want to have what I ain't got.
Right. I want my cut. Anything coming from the government. Anything coming from the government, I want my cut. So if there are some $30 million worth of glass pipes, I mean, there's a lot of crafts and arts.
That's terrible. People are really suffering with it. That's
yeah. Well, just to dispel, I kind of got angry with, I didn't really care about Fox News and the right wing and racist white people talking this stereotypic nonsense about the Biden giving $30 million worth of crack pipes to the black community. I really didn't mind that white folks was going to tell that lie and promote that nonsense. But I saw so many black people who's supposed to be intelligent and aware promote that story that the Biden administration is giving $30 million worth of crack pipes to the black community, which is not true, which is easily debunked within, a 5-second Google search. But, people want to believe this kind of nonsense when, what really frustrates me is Biden will increase the military budget. Biden will renege on his promise for a moratorium and cancellation of student loans. Biden does for real evil shit, and I hear nothing. I don't see any of that going viral. But nonsense that he didn't do doesn't go viral. And let me tell you something. If you're anti-Democrat, if you're anti-Biden, and you spread these lies about Biden in order to convince Biden supporters, you actually strengthen Biden's position. Because if you want to convince black people that Biden is a racist, which he is, and Biden is not anyone that a black person should vote for, which he is, and you tell these lies that can be easily debunked, you delegitimize the Biden criticisms overall. Because someone who supports Biden because of he stood with Obama is going to conclude, they always lying on Biden. Once you give one lie, once you promote one myth that can be disproven, then any criticism, that's just like the crack pipe thing. So when you say legitimate things that Biden is doing, when Biden ran on social justice platforms to address police brutality, when he's reinforced and further entrenched the militarization and funding of the police, when you say that, you sound like the maniac. That's just some crack pipe people who don't like Biden for no reason. So when you do have legitimate criticisms, level them, promote them. When it's illegitimate criticisms, you can't parrot that or promote that, because you're really reinforcing Biden. It's really frustrating.
And Biden has so much to hate without adding on. There's so much. In fact, my now, dormant Facebook page, but that is still available, is a long education in all things Biden. But it's just the leftovers from the latest Bernie run, when people didn't understand what a monster he was completely. And it's all there, years and years of it. Back from when he was running against Jesse in '87, it's all there. He's a monster. Wait, right. But I thought is this a love show?
Yeah, but I'm just getting some stuff out of the way.
Okay.
But
is this just one way, like this?
The reality stuff. Oh. Go on.
I was wondering, is the format, once you get some stuff out of the way, is the format just the people ask us questions, or can we ask questions of the people?
Well, it's not like at the radio show where people would call in and we could talk back and forth. Since we hide now from Corona,
they can type their answers.
They could type their answers. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, people can ask questions and comments. Can you see the comments?
I think so.
Well, I just want to say that another thing that pissed me off about this crack pipe thing. We lost DMX because he had a lifelong abuse of crack cocaine. And then we lost Omar from The Wire over fentanyl. So just 3 to 5 months ago, black people were so goddamn sympathetic to drug abuse. When we were losing celebrities to ODs, black people were talking all this, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. And then the moment that legislation comes through, which it didn't originate with Biden. It originated from Congress. The money allocation didn't come from the Biden administration. It came from Congress. But, expecting people to know third grade civics is too much to ask. And the moment that y'all flipped on a fucking dime, y'all went from being sympathetic to drug abuse. Y'all went from bemoaning, it's terrible that DMX and Michael K. Williams died, and we need to talk about this, and we need mental health in the community. And the moment we had the legislation that we've been asking for came down, and basically all we were saying is when white people get strung out on drugs, all y'all do is talk about treatment. All y'all do is talk about interventions to help the white addicts. But when black people get strung out, it's all about crime and make criminalizing. And so the Democrats in Congress came up and said, listen, we're going to set aside some intervention funds for the Black community, because we're going to start making strides to treat Black addicts like we've been treating white addicts during the Biden administration. And many Black people are attacking and mocking this. As you know, it just kind of frustrates me. But Black people, we need to, for future, next time, don't pay attention to Fox News and Daily Wire and Breitbart and lies about crack pipes and Black people. Next time, whenever there's intervention and legislation and decriminalization and support for people struggling with addiction comes up, you support that. Don't let your hatred of Biden cause you to oppose any legislation that comes under his administration, because the president doesn't create legislation. The president doesn't make law. The president doesn't allocate funding from the budget. None of that's the president. So when they talk about Biden giving $30 million, that would be a constitutional crisis if Biden wrote a law and allocated money. That would literally be a constitutional crisis. So anyway, okay, I'm done talking about free crack pipes. And even if it's free, anything coming from the government, take it. And we'll hash it out later. So moving on from that, I want to talk about Dave Chappelle. Because that's it. And see, now it used to be Black consciousness included being aware, accepting and embracing your African heritage, knowing your African history, and understanding the state of Black people. But now I would say Black consciousness needs to include two more things in order to be considered a conscious Black person. And that's class consciousness and media awareness or media analysis. Because I see so many people who are supposed to be conscious just fall into any little media trap, any little sucker duck thing, man. It blows my mind. And that leads into Dave Chappelle. And Dave Chappelle opposing affordable housing. Are you familiar with that story?
Yes, very familiar. It's terrible. And I think that, when you have somebody like Dave Chappelle, who has never really been with us, these things shouldn't be surprising. I mean, I was surprised. I was embarrassed, but it shouldn't be.
Well, the problem with that, again, I don't really care what Dave Chappelle does. I care more about how the people understand it. And it's kind of crazy to me to see how many people, just totally jumped on Dave's side to defend Dave, as if we haven't seen all our lives millionaires upend these type of projects for their own ends. But I'm not even going to get into it, because these people are really...
But what's worse about that? What's worse for me on the part of people looking at him doing this, and it just his recent actions, like given the political climate, particularly given police brutality, if nothing else, for Dave Chappelle to be using his name and influence for this kind of hot nonsense, for him to be doing specials and focusing on everything but Black issues in a real and meaningful way, it's disgusting to me. And so for him to be focusing on it because the housing has nothing to do with us, because it's not a Black community, is my understanding, right? But like even so, everything that comes out of his mouth right now, if he is truly the GOAT, if he is the greatest of all time, if he's the greatest comedic mind that we've seen in the last century, if all of those things are true about him, then what are you using it for? Because if you're just going to use it to squash people's housing and talk about transgender people, then what is really going on? That's what's so disappointing about Dave Chappelle. Not just that he keeps on showing his hand, that he's really an Uncle Tom and a new Negro, but like what he's not doing is what's most egregious, than even more so than what he is doing.
Well, I'm glad that he lives in rural Ohio and minding his business up there. If Black people simply ignored him, I would ignore him too. But he's able to like move the masses of the people, because he has this myth that he's a Black man who took a stand, which is a goddamn lie. I've never seen someone build such a grand persona on a fucking lie. Like everything that people like admire him for. Like, remember the whole, he never wore a dress. He went on Oprah and talked about when he was in that movie with
was it Blue Street?
Yeah. He was in Blue Street, which was a horrible movie. Which was a horrible movie. It was a buffoonery movie.
Yes.
This is right here. This kind of stuff. that's Blue Streak. But Dave Chappelle played a minstrel type character in that movie, and he said that they tried to force him to wear a dress, and he stood on his values and he stood on his principles and refused to wear a dress. And he said he never wore a dress. And I'm like, why you gotta lie, Craig? Because he did wear a dress in Men in Tights. Not that it means anything. Not that I'm trying to even blow up Dave's spot. But I'm not sure why this is Dave in a dress and a wig. This is Dave in a dress and a wig. And so that's just a myth. And I'm not sure why he would tell that myth. But it's one of the things where the black alpha males tend to also he cross-dressed in half-baked, you say. So there's another myth about him walking away from $55 million, which makes us think that he's a principled man. But if you look at the Chappelle show, who was the executive producer, head writer, and lead person in that show? It was all Dave. Nobody was writing those skits but Dave and people he hand selected. So Dave tries to act as though he was like, and he said he left the show because there was a skit where he was a lawn jockey. And we even make that joke. Even I'm embarrassed. Where he was a lawn jockey. And he was like a little racism elf. And he said, oh, well, that is what caused me to walk away from the show. But that's a box you a hole, or a corner you painted yourself into. So the myth of Dave Chappelle is so much more looming than the reality of Dave. And so there's a myth in the black community that Dave went to Hollywood, stood on his principles, refused to take the money to degrade himself, which the degradation was self-inflicted. Who wrote those skits for Dave? It's not like he was on Saturday Night Live that has its own staff of writers. It was the Chappelle show, behind the scenes and up front. He had his writing partners, everybody that came on that show. So all of the degradation and anti-blackness, and we just went back and watched some of the first season. There was a lot of anti-blackness, a lot of what you call punching down.
Remember, he did not. It's particularly against black women. I was like, damn, Dave, what do you have against black women? That was rough. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
He had a problem with black women. And it was just, I mean, that one skit where he was like mushing these dark-skinned black chicks in the face on the dance floor. And who did he wind up with? Was it a white woman?
No, I don't remember. I was just kind of like, wow, I was laughing at this 20 years ago. The worst skit on the show is when he was getting revenge on everybody that played him when he was poor. And he called out a black woman who had multiple black children. And he was promising her to wine and dine her and take her on a private jet. And then when she showed up, he mushed her and was like, yeah, I tricked you, bitch. And then got in a limo with an Asian woman and left the black woman on the runway. You know,
stuff.
Yeah, and the reparations skit that everybody thought was so genius.
He's basic at best. I mean, but then again, I don't know if it was because we were younger or was it because there was like not much else. I don't know why he stood out so much, but maybe it was the red, black, and green logo that fooled me.
Yeah, well, Chappelle's genuinely talented. Nobody can take that from him. He has wonderful comedic timing. His observational comedy is great, and he touches on some issues. But I think that's what it is. Black people, we've been kind of starved for a champion. So we want to turn everybody LeBron James, Jay-Z. We've been starved for
and they use it's so weak, and they use it for fuckery. And that's the problem. Like, he does have the time, and he has all that. It's been cultivated because it's actually better now than it was then. It's actually much better now than it was. Or maybe I'm different now than I was then. He was our age then, making stuff for his demographics. And maybe it's that, but like, even now, he does have that skill. He has the time and he has the talent, but he's using it for nonsense. And so does everybody else who has a platform. Like when you look at whenever Jay-Z opens his mouth, I'm like, is he okay? Do we need to check on him? Does somebody need to like literally go and talk to him? Because he seems so completely controlled and out of it, like a Stepford rapper. And it's really odd.
Yeah. Well, the higher, the higher you go, the harder, the further you have to fall. I remember I grew up poor and around poor people. And when I started being around affluent Black people, I saw a level of fear and apprehension that I had never seen around Black people. Affluent Black people feel very vulnerable, whether they're vulnerable or not, whether it's imagined or real. But affluent Black people tend to be the most people that are trying to, where the book, The Miseducation of the Negro, or there's another book called, or another statement that I really like from Kwame Ture called Picking Cotton at Night. Yeah. And where he says, Black people, even if there's no white person around to monitor us, or if there's no explicit instructions on Black people about what we're allowed to do or what we're forbidden to do, we try to anticipate what our oppressors would desire of us or want to restrict us, and we act on what we anticipate when we're not given instructions. So we demand the door. If there is no back door for us, we demand that a back door be created for our special uses. Or as Kwame Ture said, we pick. How many times have you been in a meeting of all Black people and there's no white folks around, and a particular Black person will designate themselves to be the voice and the eyes and the ears of white people, even if they're not consciously doing it?
They surely do, and they squash any talk of rebellion, and they just want you to do right. And the that's the thing about those types, not just in meetings, but they're everywhere, managing everybody's thoughts and ideas, because they ultimately, I think that for a lot of Black people, they don't want anything to change. And if things are going pretty good for them right now, and they don't have any designs on power, they don't have any real designs on control. And so if I could just maintain this, what I got right here, if I could just keep these shoes, if I could just keep this here, eating out every Tuesday and Friday and Saturday, if I could just keep these meager gains that I have, then I need to make sure that you don't mess with that. Because that's what happens when somebody speaks up in the meeting, is like, damn that, we're going to have our days off the way that we said that everybody else gets to call off when they want to. Why do we have to write a request? And the minute you say something like that, they get scared. Like, I'll just write the request. And then they start protecting and hedging and throwing monkey wrenches in and talking about all kinds of stuff around the issue. And they refuse to allow any threats to what might thwart their security and their comfort. And it's old. It's so old.
Yeah.
It's so old.
And I'm sorry.
Just imagine it's been going on for a long time. These meetings been happening for a long time.
The Negroes to watch out for, because instead of saying Black, they say people who look like us or people who look like me. Any Black person you say people who look like us. Whenever you're in a meeting, whenever you're in a group of Blacks and a Black says people who look like us.
Or no, you know what else they do? You know what else they do? They say, and when.
Okay. See, I'm not as high as you on the.
Oh my God!
I'm not as high as you. I don't go that deep. I'm not in those meetings. But if a Black person is just scared to say the word Black, then they not trying to offer any opposition to white agenda.
And they whisper white. And they whisper white.
They say them, those people. Yeah. So
or they whisper. They won't even say Black, and they whisper white. It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So it's kind of curious to me to look back, but I mean, we reinvent. We allowed Jay-Z to reinvent himself, but Dave is a myth. They say the man, the myth, the legend. He's in the myth section of his life because, like I said, people think that he's this principled pro-Black person. When he's out and that he stands on principle and he moves on principle because he wrote a minstrel show. And he acted out a minstrel role that he wrote for himself. And then he claimed white man was trying to force him to do something. He lied about everything, all of his principal stands. He claimed he walked away from all this money, but it was in negotiation. Right.
Yep. Just like he walked away from Netflix and wound up getting a whole lot more. It was a negotiation.
Exactly.
But we were all there like, go Dave. He went to Africa like that was a move. And then Oprah was like, you didn't even I mean, it was, in hindsight, I think we all wanted it to be true because we were so starved. But in hindsight, it's so transparent.
Right.
I mean, in hindsight, it's just so transparent. And he played us all again. I'm really sad because Netflix, I told them to take my stuff down. They wouldn't do it because I thought they should pay me more money. So I'm
Right.
sad. I
Yeah.
mean, really? And then what did we get from that? I'm so sure. I'm so sure because Dave said people stopped watching. They took that down. What did we get? What's in it for us?
We get to watch Jay Chappelle make another $10 million. But here's the bottom line, which is
And
why I
build
call,
white utopias.
I mean, people who support Dave, who believe that Dave is anything other than a rich piece of shit or stuck-up celebrity, is stupid. Dave Chappelle hangs out with Elon Musk. He hangs out with Joe Rogan. These are people he casually associates himself with. Of all the black celebrities out there struggling with drug addiction and financial troubles, he reached out to Pete Davidson, the whitest white dude, and says, Pete Davidson, come to my private ranch, hang out, blah, blah, blah. He talks about things like what you call cancel culture. And he has right-wing ideas and points of views. He went on Saturday Night Live and was like, let's give Trump a chance.
Dave
It's
knows
like
who butters his bread. He said it.
It's just like R. Kelly. I give you so many clues. But because he also hangs out with Talib and Mos Def, because he that's performative blackness. Dave Chappelle blackness is something when he goes out that he has a script and he acts out blackness. And then he runs back to rural Idaho to his non-white environment where he's truly comfortable.
He does. I know that's where he's comfortable. That's where he's been comfortable. If you look at the beginning, if you look at who Dave was day one, not just starting with the Chappelle show, but like for real day one, it's obvious.
Yeah. But I don't hate Dave Chappelle as much as I hate his level of influence over the community, And I mean, like, any black person talking about cancel culture is an Uncle Tom, is anti-black, for anything. Because black people, we don't have the legislative, economic, military power. All we really have as a people is the ability to withdraw our support. So if you're not a proponent of cancel culture, I love nothing more than to see my community mobilized to hold someone accountable. And we do it on a grassroots level. That's something we've been doing since Jim Crow.
It's true.
Since the Montgomery Boys boycott.
Oh, I just saw
and for us to attack and surrender that is suicidal. It's political suicide.
It is. I just saw how to read the comments, and Sean Quo got me triggered. He said the diversity and equity and inclusion meetings are the worst because black folks in there that don't want to hurt white feelings. That is just on the money. That's probably, I got it wrong. That's the part that really thwarts most of it, because everybody can think of a nice and kind and good white person. Right. And that nice and kind and good white person's feelings trumps anything you need or want. Trumps anything that's required for your own health and safety and security and even life. That single individual good white person's feelings trumps anything you think you may want. They will lay down. They will lay their body down so that white person's feelings, they will lay in the puddle so that white person's feelings can step on them, not over them, to get past the turmoil. And it's just, oh my gosh. And you're right. This diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff must be stopped. It's just a nonsense conversation.
Okay, so now, just to recap, number one, no, Biden isn't distributing $30 million worth of crack pipes, and actually black people should support the policy of non-criminalization of addiction and giving support and interventions on addiction, giving needles, giving free counseling, setting up non-criminal interventions and supports for drug. And here's another thing about crack addicts and heroin addicts and Oxycontin. The vast majority of drug addicts are employed. They live in households with non-addicts. So if you've got a drug addict that's out there engaged in high risk behavior, sharing needles, most often than not, they bring that home to their relatives, families, and children and love interests. So even if you are so sick in the head that you think that, oh, someone who struggles with addiction deserves to get sick, deserves to get punished, deserves to get hepatitis, lung disease and other bloodborne illnesses. Even if you're that sick, those are communicable diseases that can be spread through to you godly, healthy, non-crack smokers. So even for selfish, number one, so the 30 million, that's a myth. Stop promoting it. And when you see other Black people promoting it, educate them. Number two, Dave had a $64 million project on the table. They wanted to create not public housing, affordable housing. And by affordable housing, the developer wanted to build single family and two family duplexes that were between 150,000 to 200,000, because that's on the low end. That's like a third of the base level income. That's how rich Dave Chappelle's neighborhood. So this was for people to buy. It wasn't the projects. It wasn't a building some ghetto high rise. It was basically building housing that would cost between $150,000 to $200,000. And the city council said, because of the new developments in this elite community, the people who work there as entry level and service jobs can't afford to live there. So they wanted to create housing, intermixed housing, where people who worked to serve Dave Chappelle his food, to serve Dave Chappelle his drinks and his other white wealthy neighbors and his Black Negro wealthy neighbors, the people who were driving their cars and washing their cars couldn't afford to live there. So it was affordable housing of single family and duplex. And Dave said, and it was a $24 million project, a relatively minor, and he said he was going to take away. And if for nothing else, if a white man came to your town and says, I'm going to dictate your government policy, not just as an individual with a vote, one man, one vote, but I'm going to trump everybody else's vote. I'm going to trump the elected officials that were elected by the community. I'm going to trump, and I'm not even going to consider what the community wants. Me as an individual with a shit ton of money, I'm going to trump everybody. That is called an oligarchy. And y'all pretend like y'all don't like trickle-down economics. Y'all pretend like y'all don't like oligarchs. Y'all pretend y'all want to have a say in your own community and you don't want some elite fat cat coming to tell you how to live your life. But then when a Black person does it, you twist yourself around to justify it. And I wish Bill Gates would come to all y'all damn communities and use his money to upend projects that the community has voted on or selected. I wish that would happen to y'all, because now you have set the precedent of saying, hey, if a wealthy person doesn't like something that the larger community is doing, they can threaten and bully to get their way. Now, and it used to be we were against that on GP, but now you set the precedent. And a lot of times they'll send in a Black person to do some stuff and Black people will applaud it, setting up these private schools and these charter schools. And then the corporations and the big boys will come in and be like, oh, the precedent is set. So anyway, so Dave Chappelle basically didn't want any pores around his 64, and they weren't even building it in his neighborhood. They were building it around his proposed restaurant comedy club. It's the shittiest thing. It's a shitty thing that Chappelle did. But what's even worse is that so many Black people are justifying it and trying to find ways to say, oh, this is okay because it's Dave Chappelle. It's okay if because it's Dave Chappelle. If Donald Trump went into that same community and said those exact same words, all y'all same Negroes would be outraged because you don't have class consciousness. And your pro-Blackness is a liability to the race, not an asset, because you don't put any type of critical thought behind it. And moving on. I think we've done those two. Any other crucial things we need to get to before we start fixing people's love lives?
I don't think so. Or maybe. I don't know. you on a roll. Why? This is one of the questions I'd ask is if Diallo always talks to us like we doing the wrong stuff. He's like, y'all. I'm like, hey, I don't
tell me not to say that. Well, listen.
I want to be in with the right crowd. I don't want to be in with the y'all. Y'all means you and all of them. That means you talking to me.
I'm gonna tell you like Dr. Khaled told us. If you throw a rock into a group of dogs, the one that got hit is the one that hollers.
Unless you say a particular dog's name and then you throw the rock. Because even if they didn't get hit, they're like, hey, why are you aiming that rock at me?
So what? I didn't say no names. Only
You,
names I
y'all means
said.
you and all. That means your listeners
That's
and
it. Your
everybody else
name.
who thinks it. It's true. Y'all
Uh-oh.
better tell him to stop, and that's the way you use it. Y'all better tell him to stop. Don't lump him in. Don't tell him to stop lumping us in with these other.
Oh, so
Unless
you want white men to come tell me to stop and tell me how to run my show?
no, I
You
want
said
all
y'all,
of
and that
James
includes everybody.
Thompson. No, that includes everybody on this call. You and all. That means all the people on here. But maybe they don't mind. I'll be taking offense.
Well, stop cooning, and you won't be offended by what I say. If you
How
don't
dare,
coon, you have
how dare,
nothing to fear.
how dare you?
If I sit in here and say y'all out here eating on that swan,
That is you and all. That
right?
means that everybody on this call, along with all of the others that eat the swine, that's who you're talking to. So y'all better stop loving Dave Chappelle. And they're like, hey, I just told you I don't love Dave Chappelle.
Then I ain't talking to you.
But you know who's on this call. That's what you're saying, y'all. So at the minimum, the people that you can see on this call is y'all. Everybody within the sound of your voice is y'all.
All right. So should I say? I mean, how else? Man, listen. I
I'm
don't
just saying,
come.
I ain't in
I,
that. I ain't in that. I done told you how I feel about Dave. So at least make a series of exclusions.
I don't come in your classroom and bore your
I didn't
students.
even say that. Oh my God. First
Don't
of all, my
come
students love me.
on my feed
Number
on my
one.
YouTube channel
I don't
telling
know that.
me
Maybe they just pretend.
how to do my job. I don't come to your class and I don't come in the kitchen and slap spoons out of your hand as you stir in the
I
pot.
wish you would. I
Putting
wish you'd slap a spoon out of my hand and then pick it up and stir something of your own making. That would be wonderful.
well, yeah, I don't mind cooking. It's just I like to have
No.
the kitchen
Oh,
set up a certain way. I like my spices and everything
since this
arranged a
is a
certain
love show,
way.
let me tell on BroDiallo.
Yeah,
When
because
I
that's
met
love. Yeah,
BroDiallo,
yeah.
when I met him in Brooklyn all those years ago, I didn't know how to cook. You know what I made him when he came to my house? This is real Valentine's show. I made him a veggie burger and some corn. That's what I made him. And then he bit into the veggie burger and corn, ate a spoonful of corn and choked, fake choked. This is so salty. Oh God, I'm dying. And then he invited me over to his house and he made a wonderful meal. He had a wok and he had all of these fancy things that I had never seen before. I was a young woman,
Because
you know.
I was a member of a
I was
food
a,
co-op.
I was a young woman. Right. Oh, he talked down on my food because I shopped at Pathmark, Pathmark over there where the Brooklyn Nets play now. It was Pathmark. That's where I got my food. He said, I don't eat this Pathmark food. This is someone wooing me, by the way. So then I go to his house and he makes this food I've never seen before. There's bok choy and there's tofu and there's a drizzle of tahini and there's pine nuts. Oh my God, it was so delicious, right? So then things progress along. He gives me a key to his apartment. Big step. Yay, I'm in there. Got me into the Park Slope Food Co-op. Yeah, this is the way I'm going to eat healthy. And that man, I promise you, a week and a half after I got a key to his apartment, he never cooked again. He cooked once when I was pregnant with our first son, a meal that I couldn't eat because he was intentionally used the
That
two ingredients that I said I couldn't stomach. I'm almost done. And then every year of our 21 almost every one of our 20 years together, he says, I would cook dinner if the kitchen was organized to the way that I could find what stuff was. I would cook dinner
reasonable,
if I had a wok. And I
reasonable.
got this Negro a wok. Do you think he's touched it?
You got a
Okay,
cast iron wok. I need a stainless steel.
and he gonna have 18 excuses. I'm gonna be 87 years old, and he'll be
But
like, "I'm a
stop
cook.
playing. Do I
I'm
need
a
to
cook."
call Sekou in here? Everybody love
Oh
daddy
my
dinners.
God! Yes, daddy dinners. Do you know what daddy dinners consist
Oh,
of?
we got
They're
a
all
question.
brown.
Can we answer some questions now?
They're all brown.
We
They're
got a
all stuff
question.
you put in the oven. And what's your famous thing to say?
Are you
Kula?
ready? You ready to do the job I invited you here to do or
Yes,
not?
Yeah. It's all
Gosh.
right.
All right, here's our first question. Let's fix somebody's life. Okay.
Mhm.
I have a male friend who I think is romantically interested in me. Request I give him a nickname. Uh, what is that about? Anyone else can give feedback as well?
Give him a nickname. I know what that's about. He wants to know of some distinguishing characteristic, something about him that you see that stands out. So if you're like, if he's say heavy set and you call him big boy or, something like that, he wants to know what stands out about him. Smarty pants or talks a lot.
Yeah,
What do you?
that's called fishing for compliments.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what
he's looking for compliment.
he's trying to get a compliment out of you to see what attributes. And if you highlight an attribute about him in his nickname, then he's going to push that. If you call him like rose petal because he smells good, then he's going to be really emphasize that. Or if you give him a nickname that emphasizes how he dress, or if I'm gonna call you Blade because your lineup is always so sharp, he gonna be
That's
sitting
a
in the
good
barber
one.
chair every week. Yeah, that's all he. Yeah, you being seduced. So, man, that's
So
actually clever.
if she likes him, she should give him a good one. So we need to.
Right? No, don't. If you like him, figure out something that you don't like. Like if his arms ain't always together, if his armpits are kind of juicy, then
Don't
you
do
can
that.
call him a stinky.
Don't do that, girl. Don't do that.
But yeah, that's all. That's why he's doing that. So you on the right track. If the feeling is mutual, if you want to
She
turn him
obviously
off,
likes him. Otherwise, why is she trying to get? She
yeah,
wouldn't.
definitely. Yeah, he's fishing for a compliment and trying to see what you into and see what you like about him. You know. So after you tell him that, he's probably going to be like, write one of them notes and fold it real small. Do you like me? Will you go with me? Circle yes, circle no. So you're almost, that's the one step before that step.
Notes are fun.
Oh, but let me ask, is he a rapper? Because if he's a rapper or some other type of public performer, then you have to be more mindful about the nickname because that's how y'all gonna get out the hood, and you don't want him to be MC Stinky or so make sure you give him a name that so if it is if he's gonna if he got lyrics, if he's a rapper or a performer, then be more mindful of the nickname. But if not, just give him a name that highlights an attribute about him you want to enhance. So that's one. We just changed somebody's life.
Change somebody's life forever.
Yeah. So
I'd like.
name
I hope you get
your
updates.
first child after BroDiallo. I'd appreciate that because I just created my first Black love connection. So you always trying to set somebody up. I do it without even trying.
Then nobody ever does what I want.
Because you try
Nobody
too
ever
hard.
does what I
You
want.
try hard. You know about trying hard, pushing too hard. You always trying to set up couples and
That's
create
true.
a couple, a Franken couple. And
I
because
do.
you try so hard
I
at
don't
it,
try
that's
to
why.
pop apart existing couples to create them. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. That's not my usual though.
Oh, I think that has to be done organically. I will do so when I'm ready. Okay, yeah,
A nickname.
you wanna drop a handkerchief and go slow. That's fine.
I think this yeah, it's weird to ask for a nickname. That is a little weird. Like, ooh, girl, give me like how long have you known one another? Nigeria. Am I saying that right, Nigeria? How long have you all known one another? Because if this is like the second date and he's like, girl, give me a nickname, why are you so pressed?
It's Nadara.
Nadara? Where do you see an
That's
A? It's Nadira.
okay. Nadira. Nadira? Nadira.
Why would it be
Nadira.
It's
You're right.
I
You're
think
right.
it's
Okay.
not. I think it's Nadira.
Okay. But yeah. But let me say something else. Ain't nothing organic about it. You have to be deliberate. This is cunning. This you on the battlefield.
No,
Everything
I
has to be
disagree.
cunning
I'm
and
back.
calculated.
No, I agree with Nadira. What are you asking me to give you a nickname for? Stop being so thirsty. Get out of here.
Wow. Wow. I say be cunning. It's all
No,
about
cunning.
the
That's
hunt.
manipulation. That's
Exactly.
Nobody wants that.
We
No one.
literally, when children are growing up, we buy them what is called manipulatives because manipulatives allow you to develop your skills, your mental
That's for
and
kinesthetic. That's
no,
not
but
manipulating
mental,
someone's
your mind
mind.
controls your okay. All right. You
Is
can
this what
be
happened to me?
you
I think
and
it is.
yeah, of course.
I think it's what happened to me.
Yeah. So that's it. That's good. I'm glad to be able to help somebody on this same Valentine's Day with their but yeah, that's what he's doing. But ultimately,
Brother
that's the bottom
Cornbread.
line. That's the bottom line, is that yeah, he wants to, and I would assume that sounds like something from a list of things you would ask someone. You would ask someone that
Do you think that's just like his roster of things to say? Like that's his
well, when
icebreaker?
people are in relationships, they tend to give each other nicknames, you know?
So he's
So
trying to rush it, or he's trying to like,
no, he's just trying to get extra insights. Just trying to get insights. Knowledge is power. So
uh-oh, for 5 years. Good dear God.
where you see 5 years?
She's been with this dude for
Oh
5 years. Get that boy a nickname if he
no,
wants
no,
one.
it's just a friend.
Where do you see that?
I have a male friend.
You want to come say hi?
Oh
Why you
baby,
creeping? Come on,
you
let the
got
people
what
see
I
you.
need. But you say he's just a friend,
What did he say? I had
right
a
there.
male friend
You
who
say
thinks,
he's just a friend.
oh, he's trying to,
Oh
that's what it
baby,
is.
you.
He's trying to
I
move from the
told you.
friend area. Oy vey.
Yeah,
Poor guy.
right,
Poor guy.
right.
What
So
do
he's
you do?
fishing and trying to
You're
see
going to
where he
have to
stands.
decide whether this
But
gentleman
that's
has.
good, because if he's being subtle, that means he wants to express his interest without being too direct, which might disrupt the friendship or make the friendship awkward.
Nobody want. Yes, too slow. I agree. Why not just
He
come
probably
out
has
with,
some things to work out.
like, you want to go with me or not? You can't say go with. He should propose.
Hey, don't y'all listen to James, because he's given up on love. So he claims he's never gonna have another woman. He's gonna be a monk. He's setting up a revolutionary
Is
monastery.
it COVID that's making people give up?
Huh?
Is it COVID that's making people
I
give
don't
up?
know. Everybody's responding to COVID in weird ways. Is responding to COVID in mad weird ways. Now I'm not with taking stuff slow. I'm with speeding, but my constitution is set up different. Everybody is everybody different. But I don't think. Oh, and here's another problem. See, this is young, so this is
Oh,
millennial
this
problem.
guy, God. I mean, make a move. What is going on with these youngin?
Well, that's the thing. All right. So here we go to the next question. So Nadir, what you need to do is y'all gonna need to get closer together and just be honest and either poop or get off the pot.
Nadira should date James. Are they the right age? See, I'm
No, James
matchmaking online.
is I told you he's a monk. Respect his spiritual journey,
I
because
need to
he's
I need
sworn
to
off
see
all
some
women.
pictures of both. I can see these pictures. I
Okay,
can
next
hear it
we're on to the next question. All right, you ready? This is
yes.
just for you, I guess.
Okay.
Was it hard dating while vegan? Do you think it's possible to marry, date long term someone who is non-vegan?
I never dated vegan. I was vegetarian. I was actually pescatarian while I was dating before I met Diallo, and I became a vegan after we met. I was circling the fence of veganism. But yeah, I think it's tough. I think it's tough to be with someone who isn't vegan. It's just difficult. It just depends on how sensitive your veganism makes you. Like I personally wouldn't want to share pots. I personally wouldn't want to sit across from meat like that at a restaurant. I wouldn't want meat in my refrigerator next to my vegetables and next to my vegan stuff. So it's rough, but I don't think that it has to be a deal breaker out the gate. I mean, I wasn't vegan. I mean, my husband loves telling our kids that I ate a piece of fish on one of our first few dates. And,
That I paid for, violating my principalities.
so I think that you said, but here I am. I'm a convert. So you should work on converting. But you maybe convert before, you settle down. But you can date whomever. And the fact that they're willing to listen to reason, that could be a litmus test. The fact that they're willing to listen to logic and reason, and if they're willing to hear the, case for veganism and convert, then you've got to keep her. So there is my decree.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna say nothing on that because she didn't ask me.
Oh wow.
What?
Answer the question. She says, Dr. Mingo, she's asking from a woman's perspective. Yeah, okay, yeah, you shouldn't say anything.
I'm mind my business. But but just to summarize your response, because I'm curious, because you won't be honest with me. Maybe you'll be honest with one of your sister girls. You said, was it hard dating a vegan? You didn't say yes or no, did you? What did you say?
Oh, was it hard dating while vegan? I never dated while vegan.
Okay. And so then, do you think the stepfather of my sons would be non-vegan?
When I leave you?
Yeah, your next man. Would you
if I left you,
give my son a vegan stepfather?
We're talking slick. Yeah, I think at this stage, if I had to leave you, I think the next gentleman would have to be vegan.
I'm Don't have me out there like Kanye. She got meat around my kids, around black fathers. Don't have me out there like Kanye.
I wouldn't let you say it. I wouldn't let you say it, but yes, it would have to be.
I'm gonna be like Umar. You got to send me
stepfather. No, you're not gonna be in it.
Stepdad. Yes, I would. They're gonna be around my kids. Are they gonna be around my kids? You gonna go get it? No. Okay.
You're not. I'm not gonna let you have no say.
Kanye is starting an organization for black fathers.
Can I say what kind of woman you date?
And if you left
when we break up, can I say what kind of woman you date?
Of course, I would give you input. I would give you some input, of course, because they'd be around I'm not taking the kids, so
you're not going to take the kids.
So I could be with anybody I want because
if I ask for information about her, it's because I'm trying to.
When I see my children, I'm coming to stay at the house, so you're gonna have to have a room for me. Yeah. And so I'm coming when I come.
Well, you can stay. You can just stay in my room because
exactly. So it's a wrap. So yes, I think I should. So you don't have to worry about who I'm with because the kids ain't gonna never see her. I'll keep her in the dust because it's gonna be a wealthy white woman, regardless. I'll just let you know.
Oh, anything else would be uncivilized.
An elderly, wealthy white woman who's
your white woman died. Your perfect woman died.
Yeah. I should have. Man, I just was too slow.
That old lady from Arrested Development. That was the woman of his dreams.
No, from Archer. I like the character from Archer. Yeah. I let my old white lady I was planning on leaving you for, a wealthy old white lady died. So she's
dead. So I'm safe.
So that was my plan. If you ever mess with me, I'm gonna go find a wealthy white woman and live the rest of my days on a yacht. So I got my retirement plan.
I'm gonna get you to cheat. I'm gonna get you to cheat. And I'm gonna get some of that money.
Oh yeah, you can have some. It's for everybody. My whole family gonna be laid. It'd be like I got drafted to the NBA. Everybody, my Uncle Chris is getting a car and a grill.
If you got an old white woman, I'd get a cougar cub.
Wealthy old.
I'd get a cougar cub. I don't plan like Madonna.
Like if she's young enough to live past 5 years, then I need like an 80-year-old. I'm a gigolo. I'm gonna get like a thin mustache.
Then you feel so young, right? You feel super young.
Silk ascots and smoker jackets.
We're not supposed to. Somebody just said we speak in separation into our lives. Let's end that.
Oh yeah, we speaking into the universe.
I don't want to. James talking about Nadir.
No.
Okay, Nadir. He needs to move. They talking now.
I did that. Don't get ahead of me.
I did that.
I'm the moderator. So don't get ahead of me. But I read an article that says women always have 3 or 4 backup plans for everything they do. So that's when I sat down and came up with my wealthy older white woman scheme. So ain't no way I'm gonna be in some month-to-month rental with a musty mattress while you living good. I always say that men start living hard when they get divorced. Anyway, who said, well, let me go down.
You wouldn't even be able to feed yourself because you don't forgot how to cook.
No, I know how to cook. What about your birthday? What about your birthday?
Oh, Diallo. That did not.
You didn't like that?
It was, you forgot so many things.
You said it was good.
I mean.
Wow. So you be lying.
And you
then you
took
tell the truth in a
all night
public
to
forum.
fix it. Oh my God. It was like 10 o'clock. And I'm like, are we going to eat? And you were sitting up here playing video games.
Well, I tell you what, you can do all the handiwork and
I
hang
knew
these
that was coming
shelves,
soon.
and you
You
can
know,
do the
woman's
plumbing,
work
place the
is
toilet,
daily. You're like,
and
oh, the
then
next time there's a
if I
mouse. That's like
right next
once
time
every
we
5 years. My work is daily. You're like, if somebody breaks in here, I'll wash all I'll cook all the dinners. If somebody breaks in here, you handle it. That happens never. Let me not speak that into like a not.
okay right we got people saying we put I don't see the
Let's
comment where
stop all this.
somebody
This is a love show. I love Diallo. I'm never going to leave him ever.
right you think you don't leave me for your high school sweetheart. It's like Dick Gregory said.
There's no one from my high school I'm interested in.
Okay.
Not to
I
talk
saw
down on
that.
anybody from Homewood Flossmoor class in 94, but no.
Oh, here, Tito said, better stop speaking separation into our lives. I guess the secret. Did the universe hear it? Did God hear that?
I fixed it. I said, I'm never going to leave you. You're great.
Right, because I
We're
know
never
the
going to break up.
universe is an
This
asshole.
love
Because
is
the
eternal.
universe, I'm sure there's people out there begging to be taken out of a war zone, begging for their chronic illness to be healed, begging for food, and they're starving, and the universe ain't paying no attention to them.
How do you know how do you know the universe operates like that? It could operate just on waves. It could just like float. Yeah.
The universe floats?
It's no, like the vibrations, right? They're here and they're picking up on all that and they'll resonate.
The universe is indifferent.
Isn't that what isn't copper supposed to catch that or something?
Well,
or like
copper
that one
is supposed to, yeah, the copper jewelry. It's all a scam. Well, it's beautiful. Some of the copper jewelry and is intricate and is beautiful, but crystals and coppers and energy has no impact on human anatomy and physiology. Electromagnetic, none whatsoever.
You don't understand. You don't understand. You don't know everything about the universe.
No, I don't. I just know what I know. I know what's demonstrated and what has been demonstrated.
But you don't know what you don't know.
Right. So you can make shit up. But the problem with making shit up is it prevents you from knowing. So here's ignorance and here's knowing. If you're in the part of ignorance and here's knowing, if you start to make this shit up about what the truth is, it moves you further from the possibility to know, not closer.
That's fair.
So it's better to be ignorant than to believe something that's not true. It is better to accept that you don't know than to make up something about the unknown.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Uh-oh. Got some Rasta brothers with some old wealthy white women getting. Yeah, that's called sex tourism. Yeah, that's third world exploitation. But I wouldn't be the exploitee. I will be the exploiter. Well, let me stop. That's a tired joke. I don't think it's landing well. Old white ladies, please don't show up in my DMs. I'm just have to. Don't show up in my DMs. The one old white lady I really was down for, she died. So
that sex tourism thing that we saw, that was atrocious. That's just so gross and vile. And I had for so long saw that as a male thing. I had for so long saw that as men going to exploit young girls. But lo and behold, white women yet again are not going to be left out of any of those egregious things.
All right, here's another question. Harlem girl here. What's a romantic memory you have in the city and or Brooklyn? I'm waiting on you.
I was gonna let you answer. Okay, so she
don't want to talk to me. She's been talking to you all night.
What are you talking about? She intentionally didn't put my name. You see how spoiled? So when I first met Diallo, we were at Brooklyn Moon, which hosted a poetry reading. Both of us read poetry, and we were at Brooklyn Moon for a poetry reading. And wait, when did I get the note? Oh, when I very first came into Brooklyn Moon poetry reading, and I was sitting there, I was wearing a shirt because I used to work at Trace Urban Magazine. I was wearing a shirt that said Black Girls Rule from the Black Girls Rule issue of Trace Urban Magazine. And he passed me a note. He was sitting behind me in the poetry reading, and he passed me a note and said, "What do black girls rule?" And then I passed him a note back because at the time I thought I was slick, and it said everything. And then we went back and forth with the note, and that's how we first started conversing. It was with a note at Brooklyn Moon Poetry Reading.
Yeah.
In
Well,
2000.
one of my fondest Brooklyn memories is when we would be riding around with Baby Aromo in that 1968 Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah,
And we'd
yeah.
be putzing around town, driving out to Elizabeth, New Jersey to buy furniture and stuff and baby furniture because that's where IKEA used to be. So I just had those fond memories of putzing around
And putting that baby
in
bag
our 20s.
together. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, and then driving up to Harlem, to see,
Oh, the juice
Steve
bar.
Coakley. Yeah, and yeah, we get up in the middle of the
Oh,
night and get in this little Volkswagen 1968 Volks, and it sounded like a little bitty car. And we're both
it
over 6
literally
feet
putted.
tall,
It literally putted.
and we were both and it was a stick shift. And we were both over 6 feet tall, and we'd be crammed in this little car darting, and people would see that car coming, and they knew there's that couple. So that's
A
funny.
very large couple and a
Man,
very
I wish I
small
still
couple.
had that car. That's the thing. I still would, because when we would ride around town, we'd be hitting it. We'd tear up the streets
And
in
we
that
had
car.
no business really putting that car on the highway like that.
It was literally 1968
Oh, we took so many
Volkswagen. Yeah,
risks.
yeah. But that was fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was more radical when you guys met, and how did y'all cope?
It was Diallo for sure. I mean, I definitely had leanings, but in fact, before I moved to New York, my father had actually convinced me to go to New York instead of Haiti. I was planning to move to Haiti because I was a journalist and I wanted to investigate and figure out what was happening with the so-called AIDS crisis in Haiti at that time. I did not believe what they said was happening. So I wanted to go to Haiti because I didn't like the way that AIDS was being painted at that time. And I was going to do some investigative journalism there. My father convinced me to move to New York, but I had never been exposed to this library. Oh, you can see it. The library behind me that expands all over this house. I hadn't had that level of access to Black thought before. I would get it in drips and drabs, and so Diallo had that. I don't know if he was more radical, and this is a kinder, gentler Diallo that you all are seeing now, if you can believe it. The 20-something Diallo that I met, wow.
Yeah, I have to admit, I wouldn't call myself radical. I would call myself more reactionary. I want, murder, death, and I was more like Dr. Umar, except with, like skinny Umar with locks. Imagine a skinny Umar with dreads. That was me. So I would have thought I was radical, but I think I'm more radical now because I'm more rational and grounded.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, I just was a mad militant, angry young Black man in my 20s.
And I coped by just picking my battles because I just chose not to poke the bear. As sometimes I did. We fought a lot. And then just realizing that the fight, Diallo told me one time, he said, because we have a big fight and I was much younger and I thought, well, that's it, it's over. But then he said to me one time after a big blowout, he said, did he just leave? He said to me after a big blowout, Erica, why do you have such an apocalyptic view of this relationship? And I thought, oh, I guess I do, because I think that it's over at least 3 times a week just because someone raised their voice, usually him. But then I realized that wasn't the case. And, the longer you're in a relationship, the more brave you get and the more, you're less afraid that things are going to fall apart and you're better able to speak your mind and express your opinions and hear other people's opinions. So I guess the way you cope is just be willing to grow together, I think, and pick your battles, as I'm sure he picked with me. I'm sure he picked his battles with me as well. So,
Oh, hello.
where'd you go?
Mike, the thing just died.
I think it kept going. I mean, I kept talking.
Yeah, I think the broadcast is still there, but I lost my. But go on. I'm just.
I'm
working
done.
on.
I told all your secrets.
Okay.
Up there he goes again.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, but your
Okay.
face is.
Yeah, I'm just trying to fix it. Sorry, everybody. The but anyway, let's keep going. I'm working. I'll try to fix that while we go. Um. All right, here we go. I enjoy you guys' interaction. It gives me hope. It's hard out here in these streets. Women expect you to pay for babysitters and stuff. It's rough.
Paying for babysitter. That's wild.
What's wrong with paying for babysitters?
I mean, if a woman has children and the man is interested in taking you out, I'm old fashioned. Granted, I have not dated since 2000, but I grew up accustomed to the man, and not I don't know, the person who asked you out, I guess, and I never asked anybody out. So I grew accustomed to being taken out in the beginning. Of course, again, when you move along, and I don't know if these would be my views if I was dating today in a more modern society, but I was certainly accustomed to having the man pay for the date. But I don't know that paying for, like if a Romo said, oh, I'm going to take out this young woman. She has a baby. I'm going to pay for the babysitter and dinner and everything else. I mean, if he wanted to, I think that'd be nice. But for her to insist, I feel like is a little bit, nah.
Yeah, that's a lot. But I mean, what? Yeah,
You
that
can
that
pay for your
is.
own babysitter.
It
You can pay
depends
for
on
your own.
where you are. You know, like where you are in the relationship.
I mean, if you're dating, if you guys are past like 2 or 3 months and you're seeing each other 2 or 3 times a week, then it's really beyond who pays for what at that time because you're really into like a courtship. But if it's a date and she's like, I can't go out unless you pay for a babysitter, I say move along.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you are in the relationship.
Yeah.
That's where I mean there are circumstances where I would pay for the babysitter, and there are circumstances which I wouldn't.
But should it be
So
demanded of you? I mean, certainly you can and should if it's a if
is the
it's a strong
person in a
desire.
position to make demands of me or not? I mean, it depends
Or put
on.
somebody in that position.
Yeah, like if it's our first date and she was like, "Well, you got to pay for babysitter and for dinner," and I wouldn't. That's awfully presumptuous. Like,
It
no, I
is. I
wouldn't. That
wouldn't
would be
like
a turn
that.
off for me. It's
And now
not
I kind
because
of see these things through the eyes of our son. Like if somebody said that to him, I'd be like, oh, skate
please,
off.
I'd be like, Romo, you better pay. You better. She's willing to go out with you. You better pay what for
Wait, this
whatever
depends
she
on
asks
how
for.
old he is, because I do want grandkids. So like how old
Like, boy, if you don't
is
pay for that child, how much she asked you? Here, I'll loan it to
I'll loan it to you.
you. She got
If
her
that
own place.
happens
She
in the
let you
next
move
six
in.
years, I'm gonna say, nah, if you want to do it, don't be coerced. But if it happens after the next 6 years, I'm gonna go into my pocket for that money. So
Like I said, it all depends on what you put in. You get in what you put out. You put out what you get in.
I
You
just don't
know,
like the ask. I don't like the ask. Nay, a demand.
right?
No to that.
Yeah.
Run, Carl.
Or, like I said, continue to dialogue. Communication is key. I know that sounds corny as hell because
Sure.
everybody says it, but like tell her, hey, I think it's presumptuous to think I should pay for child support. And if you are really like that stressed or stretched, like if you want to go out with me and if you think that's how I have to demonstrate my interest to you, I don't think that's appropriate at this stage.
Mm-mm.
Because I mean, if
And
your
that's a fair
household
thing for
if
her to
your
think about.
households aren't fused together, if you're not really sharing bills and responsibilities and stuff,
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of like a dude would be like, well, if you want, I want to take you on a date, you come to my house and wash and press my clothes for the date. Like that's just like your house is, if y'all not sharing
Yeah.
and don't have fused households, you take care of your house, I take care of my house until we come together and it's our house. But if it's your house, you know
That's
yeah,
how I
it's
feel.
weird.
It's like it's her household. Then it's weird. I
Yeah,
don't
but
like
I
it
could see.
one bit.
I mean, has that happened to you, Carl?
I
Wow.
don't like it. And that's the thing. I don't understand that. Like I feel like sometimes I look at folks and I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't understand why it's so hard. I look at these folks, I'm like, these are attractive people. They're revolutionists. They got a good head on their shoulder. Why are they
Well,
giving up on love like James?
if I was
And why
interested
they
in a
going
person,
through
right? If I was interested in a person and they were making requests or taking positions that I was uncomfortable with, I would rather talk to them about it. Say,
Yeah.
listen, I'm not comfortable paying child support, and here's why. Why would you ask that? And if they're like, I don't have to tell you, that's just how I feel, then that's a red line. But if you're able to discuss it, because y'all gonna be hitting
And that's
walls and
fair.
having issues throughout the. So if you don't have a method, if that person isn't able to engage in a reasonable discussion about an issue that matters to you, you shouldn't be with them. So it's not necessarily that they want you to pay for their child support that should be the red flag, but their inability to see your point of view and discuss it with you.
That's better than just running away. I concur.
So let's see. Let's see. Oh, someone asked about going Dutch. Let me see if I can find that one. Andy wants to know, is going Dutch or splitting the bill on the first date tacky?
Yes. Yup.
I don't think so. I think it should be on the two people involved.
Mm-mm.
I don't think it's tacky.
No, and that's the thing. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can invite somebody over for a meal. It doesn't have to be super expensive, right? But in the beginning, and I don't know, I guess it depends. I'm not saying it's tacky blatantly and across the board, because it depends on who you're with, and it depends. These are my 45-year-old sentiments, and I understand I come from an era likely gone by, but and if I was dating present day, I might not have those feelings. But I tell my son, who's that's the dating world that I know, I tell him, let me find out you didn't pay for this date. It's gonna be a problem. He knows you come to me, you come to your father. Let me find out you asked the girl out and you didn't pay for everything. It's gonna be a problem. Because that's not, I don't want it. I don't want him doing that. And I'm trying to get him accustomed to that. It's just, to me, it's just a nice way. And I guess it just depends on the relationship, because it's not all male female. So it just depends on the role that and I don't even know if those roles still exist anymore. So I acknowledge that I'm super behind the times. But for me and for what I'm trying to teach him, I would say pay for it. And then again, that only lasts for a certain amount of time. And after you guys enter a courtship phase, then it should be a more shared and collaborative thing. But in the beginning, that's my old school take on it.
My position is whoever got it should take it. Whoever has the money should pay. Who's ever in a business position. I think the money is fiat. It's just paper. And I don't think the man paying for everything or the woman paying for everything or everybody paying for their own. I don't really think that's a good predictor on how things would turn out, or whether or not.
How is it a date then? How is it a date and not just a hangout?
My definition of a date is two people going out to spend time with each other, regardless of who pays or where you go or what you do.
What if you invite me out and I can't afford it? You're the initiator. What if you invite me out and I can't afford it?
Then you should articulate that, like, hey, would you like to go out sometime? It's like, yeah, but we'll have to do something that's within my budget unless you're treating.
That feels tacky. Okay. But again, I'm just going to acknowledge my age here. And I know that, I come from an era gone by. So, I mean, I was dating in the early 90s. So.
Well, remember Denzel had taken his wife out on a date before they were married, when they were just courting. And he had paid for food and everything, but he ran out of money and she had to pay for the last leg of the date and pay for their ride home.
That's understandable. He tried.
Yeah. I think that, especially now with the secure the bag and the hyper materialism that's around now, I think if people can decentralize money in their courtship, in their relationship, in their intimacy, if they can decenter money.
But again, I don't know if it's about money. I don't know if it's about money, because you know what another part of that is? I don't like being asked, but I if someone asks me out, I'd like for there to be a plan. I don't want to necessarily have to come up with so it's not just about the money. And again, it doesn't have to be expensive. Just, if I'm going to say, okay, let's put it this way. If we're dating and I invite a man over for dinner and I say, hey, would you like to come over to my place for dinner? And then you got, well, I'm going to make burgers, so you bring the corn. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
or should I just make the whole meal and let you come in and hang up your coat and sit down and eat?
I think that's all open to discussion, and I don't think whatever we both conclude on, which should be a deal breaker. I think if a guy invites a woman out and she assumes he's going to pay, and she goes out there and eats, and then the man says after the bill comes to the table, pay for yours, I think that's shitty as hell.
Yeah.
So if a man, we can't pretend like reality isn't real. And we know that we come from a a patriarchal system where the man is assumed to pay. So
Yeah, I do.
if you are a man who prefers to go Dutch at any stage of the relationship or throughout your relationship, as long as you articulate that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's shitty for a man to say, "Hey, baby, would you like to go out?" And then the person says, "Yes, let's go out." And then you sit there at the table, and then when the bill comes, that's when you tell them it's Dutch. So I think when you initially give the invitation, you should articulate that out the gate. You might get a lot fewer dates. You might deserve a lot fewer dates, but as long as that is articulated on the front end and both parties agree on the front end, I think it's fine. But you need to let that be known out the gate, because I don't think it's irrational for a woman to assume and I know this is heteronormative AF, but that's my point of view, and so I have to speak. But if you invite a woman out, I don't think it's unreasonable for her to expect you to pay.
Unless she says it's my treat. I don't think it's wrong for a woman to pay. And this is very heteronormative. That's my experience. So I don't think it's wrong for a woman to pay. But if I'm going to say, hey, there's this new vegan restaurant. I know, if I'm in the other predicament, I know you don't necessarily like vegan food, so tonight's my treat. I think that's grand. I think that's great. But that should be, but again, I'm just going to pay. I think the person and maybe this is a more appropriate statement, even though it's not exactly what I feel, I think the man should pay. But the more appropriate statement is, whoever asked the person out on the date, whoever initiated the date and made the request should assume that they're paying unless some other arrangement.
Exactly. I mean, Chauncey invited us out, both of us out to eat. And I assumed Chauncey was going to pay. And he's like, yo, I found this vegan spot and it was delicious. Remember that restaurant we went to just before everything closed down?
Delicious vegan spot.
The best food, Chauncey. And then when we invite him over for dinner or out somewhere, we pay. So I think not even as far as dating, but as far as
but the question was the first date. This is a young man. So I'm going to tell you, Andy Williams, you better pay for that child. You better pay, Andy. Pay for the first one.
I don't say but if he pays and doesn't think it's appropriate, then it's going to start off with resentment.
Well, then say so from the beginning.
Exactly. Just come out the gate saying, hey, I don't know where this is going, and I ain't trying to put down no money on if I ain't getting no honey. So
listen, that's the real long and short of it. If you think it's attached to that, Andy doesn't have somebody on there said tea and coffee. Andy don't have to take this child out to the lobster house or whatever people consider fancy. He doesn't have to do that. He could take her out for coffee and a donut, and they could walk around the park and talk. Somebody said that. Why? It doesn't have to be expensive, but if you ask somebody out, you make sure that they have a great time, and then after that, you can start a discussion. Or not even right after that. It's going to have to be 2, 3, 4 dates. And then once you enter a courtship phase, that's when it can be like, hey, where are we going? And then it becomes a collective kind of arrangement.
I think if a man is interested in a woman and ask her out and she's occupied with a child, he should offer to pay her babysitter.
I mean, that's great if they feel that way.
I think if you're interested in a woman that has a child, maybe you could do a child-friendly thing.
That's what I was thinking. Like, do something that involves the little one.
Right. If that's really, because just
but am I bringing my baby around randos? No. And until we get to know one another, you are indeed a rando.
Oh yeah, that's true too. But yeah, I like I said, I would just lay it out the gate. Maybe not when you first approach and get and exchange numbers or exchange social media addresses, however people communicate. Before you even, do your first DM or Snapchat, you don't have to lay it all out. But as
Mhm.
things start to progress and you do start to socialize with the person, I don't think it's any problems to say, hey, listen, you know, this is what I want. If a woman says, if a man doesn't offer and you think it's something you should request, just out the gate. That's all.
Mhm.
Just let it be known out the gate. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't been in that situation, so I'm not sure how that works. But I also haven't heard how, I got single friends,
And
but
there's a difference between an offer and a demand. If someone asks a woman out and she's like, or asks a man out, and they're like, yeah, I've got my kids here. It's tough. And they're like, oh, no, I've got the whole evening. Don't worry about it. Just let me know what it's going to cost you to get care for your child. I think that's a very lovely thing to do. I just don't think it should be insisted upon.
all right. Uh, Dicia asks, what do you guys think about capitalism's negative impact on Black love? Well, I'll start. I always say capitalism seeks to commodify everything. It seeks to turn everything into a product for redistribution to the highest bidder.
Mhm.
So, and I also say, anytime you put a price tag on something, you devalue it.
That's right.
Anytime you put a cost to something, you devalue it. And if you have a hard time, I don't care what the cost is. Like, well, I love my children. Well, how much would you charge for your children? People would be insulted if you asked that. What's the price tag on your children, or on your dignity, or on your pride? Even though a lot of us do have a price tag for our dignity and pride. Look at a lot of these minstrel performers. So capitalism degrades everything, and
Mhm.
it exploits everything. So Black love has been degraded and exploited. There used to be, outside of our control, certain things that were outside of our control in terms of Black love. We never had the resources, or the safety, or the ability to navigate the society in the ways we wanted. But there were things within Black love that we could control, like our intimate interpersonal relationships and how we deal and relate with one another. And now I see a lot of Black people. There are articles coming out where people say they don't want to date anyone that doesn't have a particular credit score. They're talking about how many six figures you need to have before you can think about having a child. I even had one ignorant man say that Rihanna is successful because she waited until she was 33 to have a child, and said that people that were having children before 33 is the reason for poverty. And we want to blame racism for poverty, when the real reason for poverty is Black people having children before we turn 30. So it has turned other Black people into a commodity. After fighting for generations to be recognized for our humanity and valued by our humanity, or as King put it, valued as the content of our character, we now voluntarily put monetary value on another person, and whether or not we deem them worthy for intimacy, deem them worthy of partnership, or even deem them worthy for sexual intercourse. We put a monetary value on that, instead of measuring the worth and value of the person. And even though we look in the media and see all these billionaires getting divorced, all these people who are in relationships with multimillionaires and billionaires, and they look miserable and they look insane, we still try to play that game. Well, if you ain't got the money, if you ain't got the loot in your suit, you can't have it. So I think it has everything. Capitalism has degraded every aspect of African people, just like it has degraded it and polluted our ecosystems. And I think we need to move our intimate, interpersonal, and even familial relationships outside of the realm of the economy, and deal with each other and value each other independently of the economy. And then once that's established, then we can re-engage with the economy. It should be to subvert it and to oppose it, but even if you're trying to secure the bag, so that's my thought.
I agree with all of that. And I just wouldn't want some metric outside of my own mind determining who is and who isn't worthy. Because once capitalism becomes the yardstick, once fiat resources become the yardstick, then somebody else determines for you. And those who obviously have ill intent determine for you who is and who is not eligible. And I think that's a crisis, because oftentimes it's the worst of us that have the fiat and the best of us that do not, and to render those people unfit based on someone else's yardstick, I think it's criminal. So I think capitalism has no place in Black love, even though, to answer the question, it has an enormous impact on it. And I think it's having a wildly negative impact. And the what you brought up about childbearing, that I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And unfortunately, whenever somebody gets a little something, that's the first kind of sentiment that comes into play, because in lower economic settings, you don't really hear that wait until you get X amount of dollars or a house or something like that before you can even bother to procreate. And then we want to look back at people who got enough sense to love and be loved as they see fit, and act like they're somehow irresponsible because they value one another and our children beyond chasing white dreams. It's really unfortunate, but yeah, it has a big impact on us, and it's for the negative.
James says, okay, I see that, but is man paying some patriarchal indoctrinated bullshit? Yes, man paying and the man being expected to pay is patriarchal bullshit. But we live in a patriarchal system. But men have higher rates of income, which is also
that's what I was just about to say. Sorry.
No. I'm glad. Men get more money and have more economic opportunity and more economic mobility than women, which is also patriarchal bullshit. Also, men have society allows for men to express themselves in terms of violence, or to express themselves in terms of sexuality without judgment and degradation. So you are in a patriarchal system. So if you're going to defend or defeat the patriarchy, a lot of times you can't just say, well, I'm going to use this aspect to call out the patriarchy. So if you are truly a radical womanist and an enemy of the patriarchy, you have to come universal. You can't just say, well, I don't want to pay for a woman when I go out because I'm against the patriarchy, but every other element of the patriarchy you benefit from and you participate in. So, and I'm pretty sure if a woman is truly progressive or revolutionary, and you are a truly a revolutionary who's opposing patriarchy and all its manifestations, I'm pretty sure the type of women that you attract and type of women that you are attracted to would not be against it. But don't say, well, yeah, I love getting money. I'm a man. I do what I want, and you're gaining all the other benefits of a patriarchal system. But then you want to, say, well, because of patriarchy, I'm not going to pay for dinner, because that seems like you're making a mockery of sexism and women's oppression, as opposed to being a true ally in women's liberation.
And in many instances, particularly in the young women that I have access to now, one of the biggest complaints is that, they have this additional burden. Sometimes many of them have children that they're raising on their own, and they're not, they're the partners that they had children with aren't carrying necessarily their fair load. And that's not always the case, but they have a lot that their limited resources have to do. And every situation is different. But to that end, because there's a patriarchy, and then there is also the woman's role that she's been relegated to, and she has to, there's a lot of discrepancies. And so just thinking about the circles that I am around that are dating, and hearing their complaints in the dating world, one of the big ones is, I just don't have it. Even if I wanted to be able to contribute, I can't. If I have a choice between going out with this man and putting food on the table and buying diapers, I'm gonna go ahead and put that food on the table and buy the diapers. And the money that I get to help do that isn't enough. It's not enough. So, particularly when you're dealing with folks with kids, but even when you're not, there's an imbalance, and that imbalance has been addressed in a tawdry way. It's in no means the end game, but it certainly is a part of addressing that imbalance, at least in the beginning, while you're getting to know one another. And again, when you move to that phase where you guys are more collaborative, then it can iron out, and you can begin to work together and support one another, which should be the ultimate goal. How do I get through this part, this beginning phase, so I can find someone that I'm willing to cooperate with? And then after that, the money part disappears.
Right. And it's a lot like when white people claim to be anti-racism, and the only way they manifest their anti-racism is having sex with black people, but every other element of the racist, entrenched, institutional racist society, you don't see them taking any real measurable action. So I'm all for it. If you are a radical womanist, and you think that, and this is one of the cornerstones of patriarchy, you got to fight all of it, not just when it be anti-patriarchy when it benefits you personally or directly. So that's all I have to say to that. But yeah, if you really are that progressive, good on you. I appreciate it, because yeah, the man having to pay is patriarchal bullshit, but also is it so that men tending to have more wealth, more status. And then even now, it's less so now, but there was even a thing whenever a woman went out with a man and was seen publicly with a man and she was unmarried, she was risking her virtue, and losing her virtue. And women are supposed to be embodiment of virtue and chastity. And so you could see a man out on a date every week and people pat him on the back, and you see a woman out on a date once with a strange man and she's a harlot. So there's that is some patriarchal bullshit, but we got to fight it in totality if we really going to fight it. And I'm sure if we got African liberation and then women's liberation, I'm pretty sure the money will flow. The money would reside where it belongs, which is justly distributed to all. And I think we wouldn't have to have this discussion. Just coffee or tea or a walk in the park. Yeah, inexpensive date. If you don't want to come off none of your bread, throw down some bread.
Throw out some bread. Okay.
What are your thoughts, Dr. Mingo, on dating an atheist? Well, you're married to one.
I'm married an atheist, and he's missing out on so much that the universe has to offer.
Like an instant death in frozen space?
No, we don't know that. If you understood mycelium,
I know if you went
into the way that fungi work on this planet,
atmosphere, you would die almost instantly, a painful death, freezing from the inside out. But okay. I'm sorry.
Again, I choose my battles. Fortunately, we've split our sons down the middle. I have an agnostic son and he has an atheist son. I'm winning him over slowly, but it's a daily battle. But I think that, I'm not a Christian or part of any formal spiritual system. I don't consider myself even spiritual. I just feel that we don't know what we don't know. I've said this before, in the absence of knowing, anything is possible, and I don't want to limit myself. I don't think that his atheism ever lands on me in a way that I can't, deal with. And it's better than, I will say this, it's better than living with someone who was maybe a dyed-in-the-wool Christian. I think that would be an infinitely more difficult relationship for me, or someone who was a part of some formalized religion. I think that would be an infinitely more difficult thing to navigate than someone who's an atheist. Although one could argue, well, let me not go there because he'll explode. But I think one could argue that atheism is a religion, but I digress.
How, Sway? How?
You got your dogma. You got your dogma. You don't know. When you die, it's worms and dirt, and there's nothing else. Lights out.
That's not dogma. That's not.
You don't know that. You don't know that. But I'm not going to turn this into that.
Where's the dogma?
I just told you that. I just told you the dogma was.
That's not.
Child, dogma. You have to. Everybody, if you're not, if you don't believe that death is the finite end, are you an atheist?
That's not what an atheist is.
That's my question is to you, sir.
Huh? A dogma are principles laid down by an authority. What principles? What am I obligated to do or not to do based on my atheism?
Is that what dogma is? It has to be one single authority.
Yes.
Is authority a single
you can
entity?
Have a polytheistic. It's simply
no. Is the authority a single entity or a group of shared ideas?
Atheist dogma means that there are things that are allowed and disallowed. There are things that I must do and things that I am not allowed to do based on atheism. Can you list anything that I'm allowed to do or not allowed to do based on atheism?
You're not allowed to believe in God.
Yes, I am.
In the afterlife.
Yes, I am.
But it goes against the shared. But then you would if you believed in God, are you fundamentally by the definition of atheism?
If I believe in God, what will other atheists
fundamentally do? As a part of the definition of atheism, if you believe in God, are you an atheist?
If you believe that there is a God,
yes. Are you an atheist?
Yes. If you conclude that there is a God, then you're not an atheist.
That's what I just said.
But that's not a dogma. That's not a requirement.
I didn't say that's a dogma. We moved on from the dogma point.
No, I'm still waiting to hear my dogma. What are the dogmas?
I told you. So dogma, by the way, what you just said, it's not just an authority, because it's It's a shared
principle or set of principles laid down by an authority
got
as
Google too.
incontrovertibly true.
I got Google too. Should we dueling Google?
No, just tell me what an atheist dogma is.
I'll tell you. In many cases, atheism has dogma, meaning that it is a perspective of a system of beliefs. It has foundational tenets.
What do atheists believe?
Atheists believe that there is no God, that after death there is nothing that comes after that.
That is not a belief.
Come now.
That is not a belief.
In the absence of knowing, anything is possible. But we can't keep having this same fight.
That is not a belief. Atheists have concluded that there is no God. Why don't atheists...
my battles here.
Listen, if an atheist says there is no God, an atheist concludes, some atheists like you're an atheist too, but you don't know it.
I'm not an atheist. I'm an agnostic.
Is there a God? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Do you have a religion?
I don't.
Do you have a God that you follow or worship?
I do not.
Do you have a set of religious principles that you follow or worship?
No, I do not.
Have you seen evidence that God exists?
No, none.
Okay, I rest my case.
But in the absence of knowing, anything is possible, and yes, I'm ready.
That's a wonderful statement. I'm glad you have it to keep
isn't that great?
Keep you
warm. It doesn't keep me comfortable. It makes you uncomfortable. I'm comfortable with not knowing. You're not. I'm comfortable. You're not.
I say I don't know all the time.
About this? You know what happens after death, though.
No. Yes, I do know what happens after death.
Okay,
I've seen
you're not comfortable in not knowing because you don't know.
Hold on. We both know what happens after death.
You know a portion of it. You don't really understand all of it. You don't know what happens.
What else do you think happens?
I want you to watch it. You know what Sekou said? When Sekou watched that documentary on fungus, right? When he watched that documentary on fungus, he turned to me and he said, Mom, how could Dad and Aromo possibly think that when something goes in the ground, that's the end?
I didn't say that's the end. I never said that. I said I know what happens after death. I've seen literally hundreds of dead bodies in all from newly dead. I've seen a person transition to death to a dead body that has been dead in the open. I've seen dead bodies that are frozen.
People that
I know what happens after death.
To ask their questions that are being ignored.
Okay. You're an atheist too, but you like to put a little seasoning on your atheist.
Patriarchy!
Mysterious. No.
I didn't call you. I was just shouting patriarchy.
Who'd you call?
Sekou said yes, and I told him I was just shouting.
Tell Sekou. Did he say that? That? Did he say how could I not?
Say, come here.
Lying on me, lying on the kids.
Move to the next question. You can ask him when he comes.
But this is more of a comment, which I was dating a decade ago, and I tried what you said, but I was ridiculed. This dating angst leads men to the right wing. It's capitalism, but black men are reactionary and blame it on women.
You're gonna have to talk to them about something real quick. You're gonna have to do it. You just gotta say you can stay off camera and do it. Come here. You can stay off camera. Come over here. You don't have to be on camera. You can stand right here, aside from the camera. What did that fungus documentary tell you about what happens when people die? You remember?
Yes.
What did you think after you saw that?
About what they said?
No, about what it made you think, if anything.
I guess about like the need to decompose dead bodies and the need to
in the agnostic and atheist conversation.
I mean, what do you want me to say? I don't believe.
I don't
exactly. What do you want me to say? That poor indoctrinated child. Say
I'm
cool.
not. Get on out of here.
Say no. Say cool. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, stay here. Dad has a question for you.
Say, let me see. Is it say cool? Let me see. Say
it is say cool.
Just look at the camera for a second. Say, let me see your face. Say.
All right.
Say.
Yes.
Does God exist?
No. Or probably not.
He said probably not.
Same thing. We all gonna be in the same hell.
He said probably not. But what? But in the absence of knowing what?
Family going to hell.
What?
In the absence of knowing what?
There is.
Oh, here comes the big one.
Yeah. These are my boys. That's my boy.
Come here, Romo.
Is there anything that is a fact?
Not really, no.
There's nothing that's a fact. It's fire hot.
Yes,
Miss
everything that
Diallo
we've seen is
Jr.
he said we've seen
Nothing is.
It says that fire is hot, so for our aspect of the world, fire is hot.
So I hope the chat knows how ridiculous that sounds.
And they know that you are simplistic.
Ask them. What are they saying?
Fortified.
No, what are they saying? Ask them if fire is hot. I didn't think that this is what a discussion had to be, but is fire hot?
You're just like the social Walmart. You're just sticking.
It's fire
to
hot.
No,
I touched fire and it was hot. That's
Get out of here. Okay, this is a great conversation. See what he said? He said his mind is not open enough to the nuance for him to really understand what's
nuance
possible.
of what. Go stick your hand in fire. So you chance that it's not hot.
Some being in the universe.
Then it's not. Then they're resistant to heat. That doesn't mean the fire isn't hot.
It could just be that our
there are beetles.
It could be that our plane of existence can't just.
You don't have to go that far. You don't have to go that far. There are blocks on Earth who can be in fire with no problem. That doesn't mean that fire isn't hot. That means that they evolved to not have to not suffer the consequences of being in fire.
Right. And how you know that fly is real?
Oh my God.
Because I see it.
What's the what? Okay. So how do you know what you see is real?
Are you serious?
From others.
So if you get the knowledge of knowing how the eye works and how you see it, but
I'm gonna let them get back to this.
Okay, so.
And that's how Diallo wins five. Oh, score one for the agnostics.
Who are atheists. But let's go on because anyway, what you're describing is the men who blame women for the problems of capitalism. You're describing misogynist. So yeah, I see that happen a lot though, Andy. A lot of black men want to pretend like women are the enemy, and when it's really the systems and institutions of white domination and capitalism. But going on, do you view romantic relationships as purely personal, or do you view them as personal but also think they have an effect on your community?
They have an absolute impact on the community. They have it's cold back there. They have an absolute impact on the community. I think that, when I think about the relationships of the folks that were around when I was coming of age, it was a model for me. And that's where some of my old timey views probably come from too. But I looked and learned how various different relationships worked, just coming up and watching how people moved, and not just men and women in a household, but how, women related to their children, how men related to their children, how, but I think we're talking about romantic relationships. And I think that they absolutely impact the communities in so many different ways. Just they can be stabilizing, they can be destabilizing, just based on who we're talking about and how they behave.
To the extent that I think that the communal impact should be the for long-term intimate relationships, I think the communal impact should be for first and foremost. And I think the interpersonal relationship should feed into that, because the environment that you're trying to cultivate the relationship is going to be ever present. So it's a feedback. So yeah, I think it definitely affects the community. And I think the personal should be very important, but I think at least they should have parity. It's for a long time people say you don't marry a person, you marry into a family. That's why I think I wish I had a better word for it, because this word has been demonized, justifiably demonized. But courtship, I think getting to know a person. If you ain't seen an individual and how they interact with the people who raised them and that they were raised by, if you don't see how their interpersonal relationship is, even if they're strained, understanding how they do it when there's conflict or ongoing conflict or separations. I think seeing someone in their larger communal, what are the groups are they a part of? If you get with an individual who's a member of a fraternity or a sorority, or that is part of some other type of group, I mean, that's very important to know. It says a lot about who they are and what their value system is. So I think it's a double thing. I think that the individuals are important, but individualism should be shunned or moved away from. So that's a lot, but yeah. The short answer, absolutely yes. Let's see. Right. Sure, race, equity, liberals, Democratic Party. There's some clown in here. I gave you. What is this guy saying? I don't know who this clown is. Anyway, let me move on because this guy. Listen, I'm gonna have to get rid of this guy because he's spamming the thing. Okay, I effing hate that white folks. Any more questions? I'm just gonna.
I see questions.
Oh, here's a question for you. Maybe you can help the brother out. Where's the atheist Bible?
They're not that organized.
What does that mean?
I'm just being facetious. There's no atheist Bible. You don't need a Bible to be a religion.
You do need a set of principles to follow.
I think there is a clear set of principles, but let's not rehash.
What are the principles? List 2 of them. List 2 atheist principles.
I'm afraid I can't do that right now.
Because they don't exist. I'm sorry.
Perhaps.
Here's some cooking advice from your good friend, B. Creamer.
Mr. Kramer. Boy, we had a cabal of pro-blackness at Hyde Park circa 2012. It was just great. Yeah. It was great. They didn't even know. It was just a happy accident. Those kids, I guess not. A lot of drill rappers came out of that cabal. But they didn't have our classes, did they? Maybe.
Otis states, recommend you read Theology and Scientific Imagination. Also, The Unintended Reformation of How a Religious Revolution Scrutinized Secularized Society. They both make your similar arguments.
I will note those and have a look. Thank you for the recommendation.
With the communal impact in mind, what are y'all's thoughts on interracial relationships?
I say nay. I just think that given our vulnerabilities, that's not a smart move for Black people. I just can't see the logic given our vulnerabilities. I think that it's just far too difficult to navigate.
Like I said, I think that my thoughts, for me personally, it's not for me, but I don't condemn or shun Black people that are in interracial relationships, if that's what they do. But what I see a lot of Black people in interracial relationships, they tend to, Black women or Black men who are in interracial relationship tends to justify their choice by articulating some fault in all other Black people or articulating some asset or some quality in other people. So you'll find a brother who will be like, I date white girls because they're submissive, or I date white girl because they're not as argumentative. Now, I don't like motherfuckers like that. I fucking hate people that do that shit. But if you saying, hey, I'm with her because this is who I love and this is who I want to be with, and that's it, and you leave it at that, more power to you. I don't understand why so many people, and like, I'm with my wife, and you know, and I love my wife, and I don't have to say, well, I'm with a Black woman because all these other white women this, or I'm with Black women because Asian women can't do that. You don't really find Black people who are in relationships with Black people that say that kind of shit. But it's so common. I see it so much on social media where a dude's like, I date white girls because. If you are dating a white girl for no other reason, any other reason than you just want to date a white girl and the qualities in that particular white girl, you're a piece of shit. And
I just think knowing what we know about menticide and understanding the way that that ideas about beauty and purity have been manipulated and coerced in us from the moment we first started to engage society. One would have to interrogate deep within themselves, why is it that I'm making this choice? I would argue that it's almost impossible for it to be completely of their own making, even if they did have some latent natural desires existing alongside the menticide is the dominant force. And for those reasons, I cannot see it. And then again, you know, to quote BroDiallo, the only thing that a black man needs, you can make anything with a non. I'm gonna mess it up. Like people be messing up Tony Baker's jokes, but you know, you can make anything with a non-black woman except revolution. And so, if you really intend,
I haven't said that in a long time.
That's cold-blooded. If you really intend to work towards liberation and dignity for your people, an honorable place for us to stand, our share of the resources and all that good stuff, it for me, I don't think that that's possible while having someone who's other than a black person standing next to you, for a million and one reasons. And then on the back end of that, on the front side of that, you have to interrogate that desire in the first place. Where does it come from? Because it's hard to suss out the menticide. Absent menticide, absent propaganda, absent white hegemony, then there might be in there somewhere some real love and whatnot. But it's hella hard to see through all of that. So if you could somehow tease apart, but that's an awful lot of work to do to avoid a black woman or a black man. And I would argue that there's a significant level of menticide present. And I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but it's a super powerful black person who could get past all the menticidal hurdles and just find pure love for a white person. And if they did find that and they didn't bother to suss out on the back end what parts of that pure love may have stemmed from, their preferences may have stemmed from menticide, that desire for good hair, whatever else you think you're getting over there, if you can't suss out, see, we cannot exist in a mental-cital, a pathological, sick, insane world where black people have been denigrated and degraded at every turn. We cannot then turn around and say, well, this is just pure love. No, it's not. It's often indoctrination. And to pretend that it's anything other than that, you are fooling yourself unless you've done some serious work and you have a serious partner who's of another race, who's down for the cause, more down than anybody that you could find somewhere else. And if you just somebody who wants to live and let live in these here United States, and you're not interested in your people's liberation and freedom, then I'm not interested in who you date. And so go with God, if there was one, if there is one.
I agree with everything you said, but the bottom line is it's like when the brother brought up patriarchy, you know, another thing I say. But yes, I just want to, I have to start saying that again because I haven't said that in a long time. You can make anything with other non-black women except revolution. But you act like Atlanta ain't in America. You know, all these conditions do exist. And my thought is a lot of self-hating black people do us a service by not dating and reproducing within our community. You know, a lot of them. And I don't want to coerce or jockey or to give a lot of these black men and I'm speaking from black men because this is who I socialize with, and I'm around mostly black men in a social setting, think that they are doing black women a favor or some service by dating black women. Some dude just said, loving a black woman is revolutionary and all of that, as if, and I hate that black love is revolutionary trope. It just doesn't make sense. It's not true, and it doesn't make sense. It's actually it has the opposite effect. But long story short, if a black person has a desire to be with a non-black person, the last thing we want to do is have them derailed and turning and coming in with that sickness with a black partner. I don't want nobody that don't want me. I don't want nobody with us that don't want to be with us. So yes, I applaud Clarence Thomas for being with a white woman and hope he, gets everything that's coming with him over there because we don't really need them. So as far as interracial relationships, dealing with all of that you said, and for whatever motivates a black person to do that, I say, let them go. Let them do what they got to do and don't get in their way. That would be my thing. And go find yourself somebody. You know, if you see a black person that you're interested in and they say, I don't date black people or I'm not interested in black people, please don't pursue that person or try to convince that person or turn that person, you know, because, you know, cooning is contagious. You know what I'm saying? You know, cooning is contagious. So if you end up with one, you know, and I got in trouble because people say, can you be pro-black and be with a non-black person?
No.
And I say yes.
How? Sorry.
Can you be anti-black and be married to another black person?
100%. That's easy.
Okay. But yeah, I say allow people to do what they want to do, and we make our decisions on the front end. But
if they don't claim to be a part of the struggle, it's of no consequence. Like I said, go
to them. You know, but I can definitely say it ain't for me. And it's like Bobby E. Wright said, you know, you let people be with who they want to be with. But his main conclusion was that if you are a black person who's not in a intimate relationship with another black person, then you should not be worthy to hold positions within black revolutionary organizations or black liberation struggles. But other than that, do what you want to do.
I mean, I guess I'm coming at it from a psychological perspective, reading, having been, you know, buried into all, I mean, Bobby E. Wright and Amos Wilson, I mean, they did all that work for us. You know what I'm saying? Our forefathers did all that work for us. They done schooled me. Dale Jones, they done told me.
But this is what I don't like. When there's a black athlete or Kanye West goes with a white girl, we act like we lost something.
No, we did not. That's a
celebration.
Exactly. We're on the same page on that one.
That's why I say go on. If that's where your heart takes you, then go there. And I don't think black people should expend efforts trying to convince you to do otherwise. You know, so
I'm gonna have to make some dinner in a minute.
Say, oh, they taking our men or taking our women. You know, they ain't ours. If they takeable, it ain't, you know, let it go. If you love, you know, so yeah.
I got about 5 more minutes before I gotta make some food.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap up. Thank you to everyone. I'm just gonna put the across the bottom how you can support the BroDiallo broadcast. Thank you so much, Erica, for coming on and fixing and changing lives.
These are great comments. I've been looking at them. Lots of really great comments. Really great.
Yeah.
You got a smart crew here.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, let's wrap this up because I definitely don't want to hold you up.
This is to say go there and stay there.
And I want to just go and shout out to Aromo and Sekou for proving my points and validating my points because
cold-blooded. He got y'all.
I mean, if your agnosticism basically says you are without God, atheism, you don't have a God, you don't have a religion, you don't have a set of religious or spiritual principles that you follow. You are essentially an atheist, even in your agnosticism, because you have accepted that you haven't seen evidence for. And that's all atheism is. It's a conclusion that you have not seen evidence of something. That's it. It's not even a disbelief. It is not a disbelief saying I don't believe. Not believing in something is not a belief. You know, not believing in something is not a belief. Because if you go allow me, if I say I don't believe Allah is God's messenger, and say, well, you do believe, you must believe in be a Muslim because you don't believe. I literally reject the fundamental tenet of Islam. So even if I believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I don't believe that Muhammad is Allah's final prophet, then you're going to tell me I'm a Muslim because I don't believe that. You can't say, well, you have a religion because you don't believe in religion. It's just not. But and I'll give you the final word, though.
No, I'll give it to Sekou. Your argument lacks nuance.
Okay. It doesn't need it. Some things you don't need nuance for.
Oh, everything.
You know.
But I love you anyway. I love you anyway.
Too. Thank you for staying overtime, and I'll let you go. You know.
Thank you all for having me and intruding in. We do this every year. Every year on Valentine's Day, he invites me on, and I'm happy to be here. And I'm grateful for you all enduring our dialogue. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. And good night, everyone. Please like, share, subscribe, do all the good things. Shout out to Phil. What's up? And James always on the moderator. All my moderators in the comments. Thank y'all. I'll see y'all Wednesday for the Q&A. And if you are into Valentine's Day and you celebrate that, enjoy your night. Thank you for spending this special night with us. And I'll see y'all Wednesday. Peace.